Well, I almost said the Boston Crusaders are in firm, like, hold of the lead, but I think isn't Vanguard like a 10th behind them in drums? I think they finished.
Speaking percussively, it was
Yes.
very close. Yeah, they split captions.
Yep.
Vanguard was up in achievement on Saturday, and Boston was up in content. So Boston ended up like a 10th ahead.
Well, the good thing for
Yeah.
Boston, to point that out before we get fully into all the San Antonio regional discussion and midseason stuff, Boston was 2/10 ahead of them in content and only 1/10 ahead of them in achievement, which means they've got a little more room to grow, I would think, than Vanguard, which kind of lends itself to they might be able to hold on to it this year. But still 3 weeks left, a lot of season left still in drum corps terms. We're about the way things are now, the halfway mark. But before we jump into all things DCI 2025 at the midpoint of the season, we're the hosts of the Aged Out Podcast, Michael Fantini and
Evan Worrell.
And all the links to support us are in the video description on YouTube. If you are on podcast services, feel free to head over there and subscribe to check out all the other content, agedoutpodcast.com, Patreon, join button, blah, blah, grab a shirt, fundamentals. Okay. Let's just start with it. Do you think Boston should be beating Vanguard in drums?
Yes, I do. I agree with that. Also, trying a new bourbon for anybody who cares.
Nice.
Bardstown Bourbon Company. So
I approve with my Mountain Dew seltzer because it's the last can I had in the fridge.
It's supposed to be Bardstown's comparison to Weller Antique 107, so I'm going to let it permeate here for a second. But yes, I do agree. Actually, I didn't watch Saturday. You watched. I had some birthday stuff going on. It was my birthday.
Happy birthday, by the way. Yeah, San Antonio Regional Day was Evan's birthday, everybody.
Yeah, so I watched the shows over Thursday night and Friday night, which is pretty much caught all those other groups. Everybody that was on Saturday, they usually split the Dallas-Houston show or Denton-Houston, whatever they are. And from what my take was watching Thursday, Friday, when I saw the recap, I was like perplexed by a couple things, but not super surprised by anything, if that makes sense. But yeah, when I watched, I think that first night it was Boston, Blue Coats, and SCV were all on the same night.
Yeah.
Blue Coats ended up winning overall, but Boston won drums. And when Boston came out, I texted somebody. I was like, "This is just way clearer than anything else I've heard." The pearls, the Remo, the clarity, the
tuning,
achievement. I was just like,
all of it.
I was like,
the playing quality.
This reads so much better than anything I've heard all night. Of course, that's watching off the stream, but still, I mean, that has to matter.
It's typically, I feel like, from what we've heard, we've been watching on the stream, and we've known someone there, or vice versa. The stream, if you're really good, typically the stream is not going to make you sound way worse.
Oh man, yeah.
Usually, if you sound good on the stream, you also sound good in person. But sometimes when you're in that gray area middle ground and you're not playing pristinely, the stream where the microphones are have a higher chance of throwing things off a little bit for what comes through clearly or not. So take that for what it's worth. But again, we acknowledge we're watching on TV over the internet. But
groups generally don't sound good on the stream and play bad, but sometimes they'll sound bad but aren't as bad.
Yes,
as
correct.
Like what the stream
That's the right way to put it. That's what I was trying to get across. But I agree with you mostly in sentiment of, Boston really was. Blue Coast sounded good. Vanguard sounded good. Evan seems to be enjoying that bourbon, everyone, if you're looking at his face on YouTube right now. He's taking it in.
All right, yeah, this is a really solid pour. I'm not going to be a bourbon channel, but the Origin series, the Bardstown Bourbon Company.
There it is.
This is really, really good.
All right. No, I mean, Boston just sounded clearer. Honestly, to me, the two clearest drum lines through the stream was Crown and Boston. In terms of like the quality coming through the microphones.
Yes.
Now, we'll get to Crown in a little bit. I want to touch on something you said a second ago. You mostly, after you watched Thursday, Friday, I watched almost everything on Saturday for the top 12 groups, rather. And usually we have some discrepancies with what the drum judge says. And again, should probably trust the drum judge most of the time. They're on the field in front of it. But typically we have some things where like, I didn't hear that, or I didn't really agree with that. Or from what I've seen in the lot, other shows, leading up to that, the aggregate of what we take in throughout the season. But this one, I mostly agreed with where almost everyone, and even within the subcaption splits, there weren't many surprises for me.
I thought Marty used the subcaptions correctly. You know, looking at some of those things down the list where it's not like anytime I see a recap and it's just straight 111, 222, 333, 444, I'm like, did this really tell the story of the night?
Yeah.
Like, it's not always the case, especially early season, where the group maybe with the best content or some more demand is always the cleanest. So, like, I do like seeing those captions, like, you know, kind of shapeshift.
Definitely agree.
We'll get down to it, but, you know, like, you know, Crown was like 7-7 and ended up 6 because like around them Cavs were 6-8 in content clarity, and then like Troopers were like 9-6.
Yep.
So like
the way it worked out, Crown ended up in 6th. But to touch on Boston a little more first, let's start at the top and we'll work our way down a little bit. I think Boston should be in first right now. I agree with them winning. Vanguard is really good, and isn't there a few? Let me pull the recap back up. I have it in
there
front
was
of
a
me.
10th between Boston and Vanguard. And then there was 3/10 between Vanguard and Bluecoats.
And I kind of agree with that. I kind of see Boston and Vanguard kind of in a 2-horse race at the front right now. Bluecoats in a close second. And then there's kind of even more of a drop between Coats and BD, isn't there?
There was another 0.3 spread between Coats and BD, so which, you know, I won't talk about that just yet, but just those top 3, I think Bluecoats, it makes sense too. They're definitely doing the most environmentally.
100%. That's been the case for the last few seasons too.
Yeah, so even from a core standpoint, where they finished second in that show, there's some things that you're like, I'm not sure if that quite lined up. The music analysis box, you know, so I could see where, you know, Boston pulled out overall too, just the readability of the core.
Boston show smacks me as or strikes me, whatever word you want to use, as a very just like drum corps show for a drum corps fan. It's nothing too deep. It's just called Boom. It's very easy. It's just like, it's exciting music, exciting drill. They drum like crazy. It's just like a drum corps show for traditional drum corps fans with like modern uniforms and stuff like that, and more choreo than they did back in the day in holds and stuff. And so I appreciate that. And I feel like a lot of people around our age and older probably will appreciate that. So it's all right. We're back. Sorry. Weird technical difficulties, everybody. But what I was saying is it's fun to see a drum corps show for traditional drum corps fans that don't, and cool to see that can still win in today's activity as long as it's executed well and the music is played really well. It's fun to see that still can be an option that a group can take. Just run and gun drum corps, play well, move well with modern choreo and modern uniforms can still get there. Or have a shot of getting there, which is cool. But did you have something you were gonna?
No, I'm good. Those top 3, no qualms.
Like I said,
I think moving into 4th place is where I had my first like armchair YouTube judging disagreement.
Yep.
With BD being in 4th in percussion, and honestly, overall 3rd overall.
I think so.
At that show. I just think that Phantom as a core is better, and I think the percussion section is better. So I could see that one. Of course, it could have been the show of the night. You know, Phantom could be. You know, had some ticky-tacky stuff in there. So Marty put him where he did, but I really just I think that ensemble Phantom Regiment is better than the Blue Devils in 2025. That's just what I think. So
yeah, no, you could speak to that with your knowledge of horns and what you picked up visually from doing the marching band world like you do. But I would, in percussion land for sure, I would say I would have put Phantom from my armchair quarterback position. I would have put Phantom in 4th and BD in 5th in drums. And that was the first big discrepancy for me too.
And obviously that we're talking about big discrepancy. It's one slot, 4 or 5.
It's not a massive one.
I could see potentially down the road though, Phantom's lack of a show title maybe hurting them a little bit in the GE department. You know, excellence is an effect. Being great musically and visually creates general effect. But I do wonder if down the stretch the lack of a theme or, you know, something to guide the judges' focus a little bit could be a detriment in the GE department, or potentially like the guard department. or visual analysis where you're just like, okay, what's the motivation behind this? I know you're doing dance really well, but like, what's the motivation behind it? And I don't know if I haven't studied the GE or the Viz sheets nearly as
Yeah.
much as the percussion sheets. So
And you have to look at the spread between Phantom and BD and drums, where I think there were 2/10 behind him, 1/10 behind him in
2/10,
each
yeah.
subcaption. That is within striking distance. One off night, one good run from Phantom, or if they just keep getting more consistent, it's that you could see them flip flop throughout the rest of the season for sure. They're close enough. Now, if they were like, I think you'd be less likely to see either one of them catch Bluecoats with the 3/10 gap, and then Bluecoats catch Vanguard and Boston with the 3/10 gap. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's less likely. So I think the only flipping we'll see in those top 5 is, and I do think those top 5 are in a league of their own when you get to group 6th.
I don't know. I guess I'll have to separate my comments for 6-5 then between front and battery, because I do think that Crown's battery was better than Blue Devil's battery.
Let's talk about Crown's battery here for a second.
I would probably put Crown's battery in fifth.
Well, I wouldn't completely disagree with you there. And so firstly, before on that note, let's do Blue Devils first. I think their show hurts them in terms of where they're staged. I do not think the battery
think they can read the battery.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I think the battery has a couple moments where the quad line is really readable for the judge. There's a couple and 1 or 2 full battery where you really get to read, and they're in the back a lot. They're off to the side, in the back. Like the judge can't get out there to give them a good read. So that could either hurt or help them depending on what's going on.
Even the add in the chell.
Yeah, they're in like the middle of the horn line and stuff. And,
yeah, you can't even get in there until like the very last thing, which honestly is the hardest part. So it's like you get in there for that last bit and you're like, okay.
That's what I'm saying. It could hurt or help them in certain situations. And to that note, I mean, we just reacted to Mandarins for our last reaction video and said we weren't super impressed with the Mandarins when they first came out, but they've really surprised us and they've come on strong going into the midseason here. Crown's another one I would put in that category. I did not have high expectations. I mean, when you go back
brand
to
new staff, just backtrack, brand new staff writing with Joe and Cliff Walker, who have never worked with the core, and then brand new tech staff across the board. Some of which, are folks that are kind of getting back into the game that we know their names. We know what they've done, had success, but just kind of getting back into it. Also probably not really worked a lot together from a synergy standpoint.
Correct.
So you're just don't really know what to expect. But man, I think that so far, year 1 of this group's tenure, success.
Very great success so far. And they didn't come out of the gate super clean. We didn't expect them to. The book didn't seem super flashy, but you know what? We did acknowledge it seems like they're trying to do what they need to do to play what they can play clean. Don't take any big risks with any kind of crazy flashy moments. We're just going to move well, play well, hammer the fundamentals, tune the drums well, and support the core and play in time. And it just goes to show you when you focus on those fundamental and that fundamental baseline approach of a good foundation, and you don't need to do something flashy to get 6th place. You just don't. If you play triplet rolls well, you do it in time with great sound quality, you move well around the field. You have a couple. I'm not saying there's not any sauce in the book. There are some moments that are really dope. But
no, I really like that. I call them inverted grandmas, where it's like the putta to right left, but they do the diddle on the second one. I was like, that's pretty cool.
It's a cool thing. They have some cool moments, but they're not trying to overdo it. They're like, we're going to do our thing, we're going to do it well, and we're going to finish well, which is what's happening. And I did not expect them to get to this level of quality that they have by San Antonio. You can just tell they've been grinding. And the kids have bought into what they're putting in front of them, and I'm a fan. I think they have some of the best drum tuning. The snare tuning was one of the best I heard on the stream for what the stream is worth. It just was awesome. It was cool to watch. It felt like, I don't know, just like an East Coast Carolina Crown drumline, circa Lee Bettis era, Travis Peterman era. And I'm not saying they're doing the same things, but just in terms of the way they moved, the way the drill was written, it just felt like Crown.
They're one of the few Evans groups that I felt like projected the most. Talking like Evans Remo.
Yeah.
I do feel like the Remo groups sounded better inside. So that's not me promoting one brand over another.
We are not sponsored
that-
by any drum company or any drumhead company.
No. That was just kind of like my takeaway watching groups. I was like, huh, like, okay, but
yeah. So super happy because we know a few of the people that are working with Crown this summer. Not familiar with any of the performers this year, but like, it's good for them. It just seems like they've been grinding and it's paying off for them. And I don't really disagree with them. Maybe you could make an argument that maybe Troopers or Cavies. I think that 6, 7, 8 is a very interchangeable range right now.
Well, I mean, if you're talking like Cavaliers, just real quick, skipping a couple groups.
Yeah, let's go to it.
Well, no, they finished 7th.
Yeah,
so
they were right after Crown. So,
but that 6 in content, that's encouraging. I feel like for that team, your 6 in content and your spread is like 0.45 from the achievement bar up to the content bar. So,
you could see Cavies move into that 6 spot. They keep
as
cleaning up.
As they say there, keep bringing the lunch pail to the office, those dogs in them.
And just further evidence that Marty used the 2 sub-caption boxes really, really well with his numbers last night. I mean, you see the story. It tells the story that we've been watching on the internet, at shows we've gone to, like seeing these groups for the first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Cavi's book has more stuff than Crown does. Crown is doing it cleaner, which was what the recap said, right?
Yeah.
And then it gives room, just like we said, Cavies, as they clean up, should jump the Troopers. And the recap also tells that story. Cavies finally did it last night. And then it shows their book even has more room to jump ahead of Crown. And kudos to Marty. I think he nailed that grouping on the head. Troopers are the cleanest. Crown's right in the middle. Cavies have the hardest book. And then the way it all shook out, Crown ended up 6th, then Cavies, then Troopers. I think it's accurate.
Yeah. And then, Troopers being 9-6 in the comp achievement split captions, I think I just agree with that. So they play really well.
Yes, they're clean. They
clean.
Achieve at a high level.
The students, the performers are playing really well. The book, for me, like, after you watch it on the aggregate from beginning to end, like, maybe there's not as much variety in there. Some of the other teams are providing as many stylistic changes. I don't know. You could throw out a bunch of different scenarios as far as content. But I can see that. So I don't really have many qualms.
But they're playing their ass off. So you got to give them credit for it. And they're in 6th place in achievement for it, which is awesome for them.
I'm not sure when was the last time Troopers were like top 6 in a sub caption. Somebody else who's like,
I don't know if that's ever happened. Maybe
somebody else just a Trooper diehard can probably.
Yeah, maybe there was a brass year or a color guard year where they did, or a visual year. I don't know. I don't know the history well enough to know. I would bet that they probably haven't ever finished 6th in a sub caption in modern drum corps. Probably not.
I mean, that was definitely the highest sub caption for them at the entire show. There was another 7, a couple 7s, but that 6, popped up there.
So that's a grouping of groups that I'm interested. How far below Troopers was Mandarins in the recap in 9th?
So you had Crown at a 17.5, and then 0.05 below them were Cavaliers.
So real right on their butts.
At a 17.45, and then 0.05 below that was Troopers, so 17.4. So those 3 really tight.
Then where was Mandarins below Troopers? How close were they?
0.2.
So 2/10 is you can make that up in 3 weeks left. Keep cleaning up.
Ahead of them in the content composition box at number 8, and then just a little bit below at 9. So maybe on the move, getting some of that worked out, and just So you're going to see there's a lot of potential for some
shakeups.
Some shakeups.
It's going to be real interesting to see how this continues to. It makes it more fun to me. Makes it
I'm
way
sure
more
like
fun.
the tech staff, design staff are kind of like, but.
Well, it makes it more fun for us in our group chats of I saw on the Drum Corps Coffee Shop, Robert posted after the regional was over. He goes, "It's just to the recaps" with 3 exclamation points.
Yeah.
It makes it fun as a fan when you see the story told well and you see the close races for people to jockey for position. Memes. Yeah, basically, it's cool. And so after Mandarins, who was 10th?
10th,
Blue Knights, right?
The Blue Knights, which
little surprising to me.
BK team getting in
Yeah,
there.
good for them.
They didn't make finals last year, right?
I don't think so. 2 years ago,
DCI
they were
2024
12th.
scores.
But I think Madison made finals last year, and they did not.
I believe that's right.
Yeah.
This isn't going to show me what I want.
But, good for them. I know Taha and some of the Monarch crew from indoor season are working there with Osdemore still writing. We've checked them out a little bit. We plan to react to them still at some point this season before finals. Definitely a group we're going to check out. I mean, they're, according to this, a top 10 percussion section. I mean, so great for them.
Yeah, the core sitting 11th overall.
Is that the highest they've been at any point since Osdemore took over arranging so far?
Well, it could be. My historian knowledge is not not tracking that.
Kind of shameful, but like once we get out of the top 6 to 8 typical groups, it's like we don't remember where people finished over the last 3 years as much. But
I couldn't tell you who was 4th in drums last year right now. I don't know. I know
and that tells you right there as members, if you're like salty you didn't get 3rd or 4th, or you should have beat this group and gotten 5th at the end of the season, nobody cares.
Yeah, I remember.
A year or two later, we just remember if you were good or not.
Groups were great, but I do not remember the order.
Yeah.
Outside of Vanguard,
people don't even remember who won drums most years or got second.
I remember those, but
on average, I would argue the average drum corps fan does not remember who won drums 5 years ago, sitting here right now, or 6 years ago in 2019.
I got spreadsheets for that.
Oh, we know. All right, so Blue Knights, then 11th was Blue Stars, right, if I remember right?
Let's see here. 11th was the Blue Stars.
And I was happy to see the core in 8th. I was happy to see the core in 8th.
Which another group that has gotten drastically better since the start of the year.
Yes.
And I think they were missing a snare drummer for quite a while. I think they had 7 early on, but I saw that they've had 8. So they're full line. So that's awesome. Glad to see people jump back in if they were out for sickness, injury, whatever the case. So, but yeah. 11th overall, or 8th overall, but 11th in percussion. But I feel like they've been trending up.
Yes, they're on the up and up. You could see them move up, I think, maybe over Blue Knights, or probably not over Mandarins. What was the gap between Blue Knights and Mandarins?
0.5. I mean,
you're not going to see that change.
Or wait, Blue Knights and Mandarins was 0.3.
Oh, I'm thinking of
Blue Stars to Mandarins was 0.5. So
okay,
yeah,
I don't think you'll see it. I think Mandarins is like a cutoff point in quality. That I don't think you'll see Stars or Blue Knights or Colts catch the Mandarins or above.
That would be a hefty
jump.
That would be a hefty climb. That would be like, the fairy dust sprinkled over, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh dang,
the stars aligned, and
we woke up and we were like a different drum corps.
People have some light bulbs go off and they get cleaner overnight drastically.
Yeah.
But no,
which sometimes that does happen down the stretch when like you kind of feel like you are what you are, and like you're just playing loose and you're not playing with any pressure.
That's a good point.
So,
and it's
sometimes
funny
when the pressure gets the group, so you're like, I don't know, things happen.
It's funny how we're talking like we're saying we don't see that changing, and we were talking in the early season podcast about Crown could legitimately get 8th, 9th in drums, and now that still could happen because it's a very close spread between those 4 and on a different night. I like that those 4 groups, Crown through Mandarins, I feel like it's going to be a show of the night the rest of the season. And it's like whoever brings it and has the better show is going to get the bump.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be really exciting night in and night out to watch play out.
Especially like on the finals night. Like if you get in there and you're just like, hey, we made it in. Like
we got nothing to lose.
Let's just throw down. Like whatever.
Yeah, it can happen. So who really knows? But I think it'll be unlikely you'll see Blue Knights, Blue Stars, Colts, who was in 12th last night, catch 9th place and up. I think there's like a cutoff there. More than likely, you won't see that happen. And I'm just using kind of my eyes and ears test, having watched those groups and then watched Mandarins, who's in 9th. I just think they're not on the same level of quality of what they're doing or how they're doing it. And it isn't to say 10th, 11th, 12th are bad, because they're a top 12 group. That's saying something right there. They're still good. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
So then the last
rounding
surprise,
out the top 12 as far as like cores and percussion section was the Colts, which the Colts have been kind of a staple of consistency and just, I don't know how to say this.
Just be blunt.
No, yeah, a staple of consistency and just like a model for playing well within your frame is good for success. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
you
I
know,
see what
the,
you're
the
saying.
beats are never overwritten
Hmm.
and they don't try to do too much. They're doing what they do really well. The quality's there. Um, Sometimes I do think that they could maybe take some more risks, but who am I to say that? I'm just, whatever. I'm just a fan who's watching.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's top 12, core sitting 12th, so it's hard to argue with what they're doing.
Yeah, doing something
Um,
right if you're a top 12 group.
I
Below
do,
them, go ahead. No,
I
finish your
do
thought.
think moving two groups down to Spirit,
There we go.
that's probably my other one
That's
that
where
I
I was gonna
disagree
go.
with, as far as YouTube judging, and a lot of this is probably my bias of weight towards watching the Drumline videos. So I do think Spirit of Atlanta's Drumline is like a top 12, 11, 10 Drumline.
I I think Spirit's drumline is better. I'll just say it, better than Colts, Blue Stars, and Blue Knights.
Yeah,
Now, I
I
don't know
agree with
what's
that.
going on in Front Ensemble Land. I was able to catch their show an hour and a half before Troopers after the dinner intermission yesterday. The show is fine.
The
Nothing else
show
the
is
core was doing was like wowing me, but the
the
show is
brass
fine.
is solid. I mean, I don't want to like be. I don't want this to be like a negative thing, but I mean, there's some things in the show that are lacking. The percussion's not one of them, so I'll say that.
We'll leave it at
But
that. We'll just
you
leave it at
know,
that.
yeah, I don't want to. I'm not judging. I'm not putting numbers down on the page, but I watch the show and I'm like, okay, I get some things that are going on
Yeah,
from
I
a
understand the
competitive standpoint.
concept.
Um, but I think that battery is
They're
top
top
11,
10.
10, yeah.
I
So
would put them, if I was judging ranking drum lines, they would be above Blue Stars, Blue Knights, and Colts in my mind. They would not be
yes,
above Mandarins or above, but they'd be in that 10 spot
yeah,
personally. But yeah, that was the last surprise. The only thing that I was kind of, and who knows, maybe the other groups ahead of them, their front ensembles are doing more. Eric Shriver's still at Pacific Crest, who was in 13th. Haven't
hmm
checked them out as much this year. I plan to. We reacted to them last year. There's a
they're
good
very
chance
good.
we'll do it
I
again
mean, I
this
watched
year.
that show. I watched that
Um,
show too.
so we'll see, man. I think I might even. I just said I haven't seen a ton of Crest. I've seen a little bit, and I've seen only a little bit of Colts, Blue Knights, and Blue Stars. I'm going to do my homework, everybody. We plan on reacting to most of those groups by the end of the season. I'm going to do my homework before I come out and say, like, beyond putting Spirit above all of them, where I'd put Crest or like how I'd move anybody around. I will say Blue Stars, they had some moments that sounded pretty good on the stream. The drum
Yeah,
line, like the snare line, had some rolls that cut really well. They move fairly decently. So yeah, I mean, I think the Blue Stars have come a long way. I feel like that's been a story of this year. A lot of groups have improved a ton, and that's kind of a little bit of reverse of how I feel like the last few seasons are. Because groups come out on average way better out of spring training than they historically used to years ago. You see a lot less of those massive jumps in quality of what they're doing, especially in the first 3 weeks. They're getting used to
true.
tour. Groups will get better, but we've seen drastic jumps this year in Mandarins in the first 3 weeks, drastic jumps for Crown, a drastic jump, I would argue, for the Cavaliers' level of achievement from the beginning to now already.
Blue Stars. I
Blue
put them in
Stars have
that.
made a jump.
Yeah.
Like, it's just been a year of big steps in the first half of the season, which has been a nice change of pace and really cool. A lot of surprises, a lot of curveballs from that in terms of trying to make predictions and say who's better than who, because it makes you get invested in, like, all right, what's going to happen tonight? Like, I know I'm looking at recaps
Yeah.
almost on a show to show basis to see how things
Yeah.
played out. And typically, admittedly, despite doing the show, I haven't done that in the past. I typically would just check in on the recaps. If you sent me something, or every regional weekend, San Antonio, Atlanta, which is not a regional anymore, Allentown, I would check those on my own right when they were up to see what's going on. But
Also, I think I heard that this is maybe the last year that San Antonio is going to be required for cores. Kind of the same way that Atlanta is now. Like, not everyone goes to Atlanta. They kind of split
I
between
don't think
Atlanta
I don't think
and the
Cavaliers are doing
Winston-Salem
Atlanta
show.
next year. I think Adam told
Um,
me Cavies are not doing Atlanta next year.
well, a
Somebody
lot of
correct
groups
me if
don't.
I'm wrong
A
on
lot of
that.
groups don't do Atlanta
Yeah.
anymore because they split between that and Winston-Salem.
Hmm.
But I think that San Antonio might not be a requirement. I feel like I heard that. I don't.
That makes me
I don't know.
sad. Like, that's always been a staple of the tour for like decades now. Of like, that's the first show in the Alamo Dome in a big venue where everyone's there, and we get a good read on how they stack up. Because think about it, if they don't do
hopefully
that,
Coors will still want to do that though.
right? If they don't do that, we're not going to know how anyone stacks up till really finals. Because even Allentown is 2 nights.
2 nights. Yeah.
It's 2 nights. Like, we're not going to get a show where everyone goes the same day with the same panel till finals. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Ironically, our friend Chris Gary just texted a group. It's not a meme. I was going to say a meme. It's just a graphic. There we go. Not everything's a meme. But it's a graphic it comes from marching.com is the source. But does San Antonio predict DCI gold? And it's like 7 out of the last 10 years, the winner of San Antonio went on to win the Founders Trophy there at the end. The only years that it didn't happen was 2013. Crown ended up winning overall. BD won San Antonio. 2015, the Cadets won, and BD won. And then 2019, the Bluecoats won San Antonio, but the Blue Devils won.
I would want to check to see how often the person that won drums in San Antonio. Well, I know Cabbies did it in 23. They won drums in San Antonio.
Cabbies did in 23.
Did Vanguard win drums last year at San Antonio?
From the press box, we go.
This is why we love the internet, and we can look this up right now, everybody. Mid-recording.
Jamie, look that up.
Yeah, Jamie, check that out for us.
2024.
And after we won't beat this horse to death.
Yeah, I'm not gonna look it over here.
No. We'll look this one up, and then we'll wrap this episode up for everybody and move on with our day.
Percussion. No, Boston won.
Oh.
Vanguard was 4th.
They got 4th in drums in San Antonio?
Yeah.
Wow. Who judged?
Peter Fenari, who I'm pretty sure judged finals weekend last year, right? I think he judged prelims.
Maybe?
I'll find out in just a second. August recap.
We're just going down the rabbit hole, folks, if you're still listening.
Yeah. All right. Just stay with me.
After this, we're really going to close this out, I promise.
Yeah, where he had Vanguard 3rd.
Okay, well.
Yeah, 3rd. They won 3rd. Interesting.
All right, we'll talk about that later, everybody. This is a great season so far. A lot of good drumming, a lot of good playing, some cool shows. Will Boston be able to finally seal the deal and win the Sanford this year? If I was a betting man, I would say they probably will. But, Paul Rennick is right there, and you can never count his group out. And even the Bluecoats, I think, again, have the vehicle to potentially do it. So we'll see what happens down the stretch. Atlanta next weekend. We're just going to keep going with reaction videos until we get to our predictions podcast at this point, finals week. And we're going to be in Indianapolis like always. So feel free to say hi. We'll remind you again in future videos before that. And comment, like, subscribe. All the links to support us are in the description. And we'll see everybody in the next one.
Peace.